Hey, and welcome to the group cleansing intro. So in this video, I will be sharing with you all of the first steps to a cleanse, and why we're even doing this in the first place. So you already have your personal why. So your why is what made you sign up for this, right? This is what made you do it, decide it's going to happen, and that is your own personal why. So let's take a moment right now to check in and go back to that personal why, back to that one little thing that you are on the brink of just saying it's now or never, right? So let's go back to that. Good. All right. So now I do want you to take a little moment to ask yourself, what would happen if you didn't take this step? What would happen if you just continued the way things were going, right? Either it would get worse, or you might reach a point where there was no option, right? There would be something called you to do this. So I'm very proud of you for taking that step. So now I want to talk about the reasons why we feel the way we feel. What led us to this point, right? What is it that is leaving us feeling how we're feeling? Whatever symptom you have, whatever reason you got here, what is it that's causing this? So the cause is that we're bombarded with toxins. We have toxins everywhere, right? In our GMO, with our food, herbicides, pesticides in our food, antibiotics also in our food, but the ones that we take ourselves, chlorine and fluoride in our water, xenoestrogens in our products, heavy metals, which is in pretty much everything from food to products to water, everywhere. EMF radiation from our devices, which is everywhere, as well as from the towers, chemical sweeteners, the what are they called? Splenda, those things, right? Then the ones that are in our food, the packaged food that we don't even know what is actually in there. Fragrances is a big one. Fragrances are hormone disruptors, and they are in a lot of things, right? We spray perfume on our face. We walk into a room, it smells really strong. That's a fragrance, and those are super toxic. Plastics and BPA. So our clothes, polyester is plastic, so we have to be very conscious of our clothes. Pathogens, mold, aluminum in our deodorants and even in our air because of their spraying and pollution, as well as stressors, right? The things that stress us out, that stress, that excess cortisol causes us to feel really tired and fatigued. So a lot of that stuff is also part of the toxins. So now let's talk about how our body gets rid of these toxins naturally, right? So our organs are already doing so much to detox us, right? That is literally what they're made to do. These beautiful organs inside of us, especially right in the abdomen area, are created for detoxification. So we start with the intestines. They start filtering out the toxins once the food hits the intestines, right? So they start filtering through their little villi, which are like these little things on the intestinal lining. We have a membrane of mucus, and that membrane sometimes thins out, and things can get through it that we don't want. So once they get through it, instead of being filtered out with the villi and they're like sifting through, they accidentally get through, and then the liver has to deal with it. So then the liver will refilter and remove things, but the liver is also responsible for removing excess hormones. And if the liver is too bombarded with other toxins, those hormones just get pushed back into us and we cannot filter them out. That's why there's a crisis of excess estrogen in women. And then the kidneys then take over and start filtering out and clearing all the liquid of the body. However, if you are still toxic and none of those systems were able to cleanse everything, finally, you get to the lymph system, which is your last mode of defense. That's why our immune system is there, right? Our immune system is also in our gut. It's like the first defense, but then the lymphatic system is then taking over to cleanse you out. And if that gets backed up, we get, right, those lymph nodes get inflamed, they get big and stuck. So that's stagnation. So the flow of the lymph cannot, the fluid of the lymph cannot flow. And then if that's backed up, then we're in trouble, because then our blood gets toxins, our brain gets toxins, and our lungs get toxic. So all of these systems work together, right? So every disease is either a deficiency or a toxicity. And actually, you can say that every single disease is a toxicity, because these deficiencies happen because of toxins majority of the time. Unless, of course, you are, completely deprived of nutrition and you can't sustain yourself. However, most is just toxicity, and these toxic substances, things that mimic hormones, confuse our cells. They completely confuse our body into those chemical reactions that our body's constantly doing, right? Our body is not able to communicate with one another properly. The hormones don't communicate, the neurons don't communicate, things are not communicating, the chemicals, the ratios of minerals are off balance. So that leads to symptoms. And these symptoms are amazing. Our body is literally communicating with us, telling us that something is wrong that we need to pay attention to. So symptoms are good. If you have symptoms, it means your body is telling you what's wrong. If you suppress symptoms, if you just take a medication and suppress the symptom, how are you going to know what's going on? How are you actually going to fix the underlying issue? So I want you to think of our symptoms as, let's compare everything to a plant. So we are a little plant, and our symptoms are things like the wilting of a flower, right? Or the darkening and or yellowing of a leaf. It could be, a invader, like you get some bugs on your plant. Whatever it may be, you start to notice immediately when you look at the plant if it's healthy and thriving or not, right? So that's how our body communicates with us. So our symptoms would be things like fatigue, cravings, thinning hair, thinning nails, rashes, acne, digestive issues, hormonal issues or cysts, cholesterol and blood pressure imbalances, even dental problems. Our teeth are a huge indicator, as well as our eyes, of what's happening inside us. So all of these are just telling us communication, right, of what's happening. But there is an underlying issue. There is a root cause. So when you go to fix a plant, you look at the root first, right? You see what's going on in the root. Is it absorbing nutrients? Most likely not. Neither are we if we are having a hard time. And what is blocking it? It's these toxins. So root causes are things like inflammation for things like blood pressure, cholesterol, parasites and molds for things like digestive issues and rashes, anxiety, depression, and stress. We talked about stress being a toxin before. That is definitely something that we need to look at, as well as insulin resistance. And that is a very big one in today's society. I think a majority of people's problems in today's society is insulin resistance, and they just don't know. So then we look at the root and we find these causes, right? These underlying issues. But you need to go even a little bit deeper, because to really solve the issue, we need to look at the soil. We need to look at the terrain of the body. So that terrain is either usually a pH imbalance. So it's always going to be an imbalance. Again, deficiency, toxicity. So that is either going to be a pH imbalance or a yin-yang energetic imbalance of the qi. So those things are a little bit more in the, what we call spiritual realm, but we are an energetic body. So we have to look at ourselves in that sense. We can't just see ourselves as the physical being, because the energy does not lie. So, what are these toxins doing? Like I said, they are blocking that communication with our cells. And this poor communication or mimicking of a chemical like a hormone can confuse our body and create that imbalance of the chi, the energy. So, once you remove that interference, once we get rid of these toxins and detoxify, the entire body will re-regulate itself. It's such a powerful system. It will literally fix itself. So I'm going to drink my dandelion tea, which is amazing for the liver, and we'll get to that. So a gentle cleanse, which is what we are doing, will help the body start that process. It's obviously not going to complete the process since it's only a 7-day cleanse. This is just a boost to get you started, and it will start self-regulating. So you're going to introduce things into your body that is going to help that process, right? And since everything is connected, what's beautiful about a cleanse is that a lot of symptoms will clear up. So if you've got something happening over here, something down here, you start cleansing, both of them will start clearing up. It's not like allopathic medicine where you give a pill for a symptom, right? You give one pill for one thing, another for another. No, cleansing will address the entire body and let everything flow naturally. So in our cleanse, we will use things called binders. And what they do is they attach to the toxin to bind and pull out, to clean out. So these binders will be gentle, probably something like psyllium husk or a clay like bentonite or diatomaceous earth. Very kind to the body, will not harm you. Also, salt is a binder. Most people don't know that, but it's heavier than blood, so it helps to cleanse. So herbs are also amazing. So these binders will remove the toxins, and these herbs that we'll introduce, like dandelion, are going to support the organs to help them in their process that they already know how to do, which is detoxify. And the nutrition, the recipes that we will be using, as well as the movement, will help in both those things. Nutrition helps to both cleanse as well as nurture and support the organs. And then movement helps us to excrete and cleanse as well as nurture ourselves, right? So when we talk about cleansing, we do need to talk about the drainage systems, okay? We have to clear out the gunk. We start with the intestines, right? So that is where we have to think of it like a plumber. When they start clearing things out, they start at the beginning, right? They don't go to the back and start pulling things out. They pull things out from the front. So, well, for us, it is the back. But we have to clear out the gunk in the colon and intestines so that everything else can flow, right? So that's where we're starting with this gentle cleanse. This gentle cleanse is a boost because it is starting that exact process. It is cleansing the colon and intestines, and then it is also supporting and healing the intestinal lining. So like I said in the beginning, if your villi are not sifting through things, right, it's because that mucous membrane is very thin or non-existing for some people. So we're going to build it back up so that things can filter out well and not get passed through. And that will support the liver in its natural detox process, right? And assist in the removal of excess hormones, because now it will have time to process those excess hormones. And that in turn will assist the kidneys with proper filtration and removal of any stagnation. And then that again will help the lymphatic system to properly flow as it should. Since it doesn't have a pump of itself, we're going to do a lot of lymphatic exercises to help our lymph system move. And then, of course, if you got all of those working properly, your blood will be cleansed of any impurities. So when we start a cleanse, we do have to prepare ourselves mentally as well as physically. Mentally, again, we go back to that why. Whenever you feel yourself getting stuck in this cleanse, whenever you feel yourself hitting a wall or feeling like you can't do it, it's only 7 days. But we do feel that sometimes, right? So if you do feel that, you have to remember your why. Go back to your why and tell yourself, look, I am not depriving myself I am not, forcing myself. I am healing. I am in the healing stages. I am in the process of, removing all those years of built up gunk that is inside of me, all those toxins that I've built out since I was a child that I've never cleared. So I am starting that healing process. So I'm going to keep going, right? Because this is what we're meant to feel: amazing, energized, healthy, right? When we need to also allow for both the physical and emotional clearing, because what emotions do, they manifest in the physical form, which is why the soil, the terrain, the underlying issue of the underlying issue is energetic, is emotion. And, what happens to us when we have trauma or anything like that, that has built into our system that we're holding on to, they manifest. And those manifestations is that stress that is a toxin. So we're going to clear all of that, right? By this boost, by this start, by this, beginning of a reset to our system. So physically, we also have to remove all cravings and junk food from the home. So hopefully you've already done that before starting this cleanse, removing anything in our surroundings that will trigger us to want to eat more. And of course, smoking, alcohol, and recreational drugs should not be part of this cleanse. You are allowed a little bit of caffeine in the morning because it is a lot to do everything cold turkey. However, please do not smoke, do not drink alcohol, and do not do any recreational drug. It's only 7 days, guys. Okay, you want to plan for success. Planning for success means, looking at the menu for the next day. You can prep your meals if that's what you like doing. I think it's best, it's easiest. Looking at the protocol for the next day, making sure that you have everything you need in place to make that happen, working around your own schedule to see where you can fit things, and making sure that you're making time for the important things of the cleanse, like your juice, your tea, exercise, any kind of movement that's involved, as well as mindfulness. So definitely making time for the mindfulness exercises, because those are part of that energetic clearing, right? So ask for help when you need it. I am here for that. Ask me for help, but also know that you have the support of everyone on this group cleanse, right? We're doing this together because that is the beauty of having each other and working together, because we can help one another in everything that we do. So if you have any questions or concerns or you need help, please feel free to share in the group chat any tips, anything that comes to mind that you feel like would better the cleanse. So put that in there. And remember, you can send me any questions or concerns that you don't want to share with the group separately at any time. No question is too stupid. Trust me, I've had people ask the silliest things, and honestly, they just didn't know, and that is perfectly fine. I am okay with that. I do not judge. So, last thing I do want to say is that when we start this cleanse, we are going to have a recipe book, and in that recipe book, there will be, these recipes will be in proportion to families. So there will be maybe between 2 to 5 servings for the recipes. So please do not eat everything that you make. It is to be shared. I created this for moms, for families, for us to be able to make our recipes for the cleanse, but also not have to go out of our way to make something separate from what our family is eating. This is to be incorporated for the family. If there's anything obviously that your kids or your spouse will not eat or do not want, then I would recommend putting it in an airtight container, saving it for the next day, or saving it for the following days after the cleanse, so you do have something yummy that's easy access and you can continue eating healthy. So I highly recommend focusing on that. And 2 other tips that I'm going to give you for the nutrition part of this is to chew your food very well. That's one of the things that you can do for your digestive system. That is so important. It is chewing your food properly. By chewing your food properly, you're already making a huge difference in that detoxification process. It makes it a lot easier for the saliva to break down the food, a lot easier for your stomach to break down the food, which makes it a lot easier for your intestines to sift through the food and choose what is healthy and what it wants to keep and what it can leave. This also helps with the bile in your liver to be able to, once you start that chewing process, your bile is already getting ready to break things down. So once you're chewing and you're actually chewing your food, then the whole process following will be a lot smoother. Now, tip number 2 is that I want you to be well, not under stress. So be in a very good mood when you're eating. Obviously, you want to cook your food with love. Hopefully, you're already doing that all the time. But try not to be under pressure or under stress when you sit down. Hopefully, you're sitting down to eat your food. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that when we're under stress, when our body is too stressed out and we don't focus on just that moment with our food, we lose the intention of actual eating, of nurturing ourselves. So if we're distracted, if there's something going on and we're stressed out, we are in our sympathetic state. In that state, our body is not ready to digest food. And if your body is not ready to digest food, a lot of things are going to go wrong. So that's where a lot of people get bloating or, things like that isn't happening, where the process of digestion isn't happening as it should. So focus on deep breaths if you need to, calming the nervous system down, getting that vagus nerve to bring you into that parasympathetic state, which is that rest and digest state, so that when you're eating your food, you're doing so with intention. Give gratitude to the food in front of you. If you want to say grace, but focus on getting into a relaxed state so that while you're eating and you're chewing really well, you are digesting the best of your food and you are nurturing, you're absorbing those nutrients properly. All right. Thank you guys so much for choosing to do your cleanse with me. I am so excited for us to get started. So please, again, ask me any questions. Feel free to throw in any concerns as well. And let's do this. Let's get started.